and protect.
Sheriff.
Serve and protect.
Sheriff.
Serve and protect.
Sheriff.
Serve and protect.
Sheriff.
Serve and protect. Serve and protect.
Sheriff.
Serve and protect.
Sheriff.
Serve and protect.
Sheriff.
Electronic surveillance. No electronic surveillance. No electronic surveillance. 5084 or WOWAC out the door. 5084 or WOWAC out the door. 5084 or WOWAC out the door. My name is Josh Hart. I'm director of StopSmartMeters.org. There'll be a time for questions afterwards, but we have an announcement to make. That's why we're out here in front of the county courthouse. Since PG&E started installing smart meters illegally in Santa Cruz County, we've been inundated with people from the county reporting symptoms from the meters. I just want to read one of those accounts. A woman wrote to us and she said, "Recently a smart meter was installed on my home. I started vomiting, I mean all night. I called PG&E and demanded the meter be removed, but they refused. What can I do?" Thousands of people have submitted formal written complaints to the Public Utilities Commission outlining strikingly similar symptoms after these powerful microwave emitting devices were installed on their homes. These include insomnia, dizziness, nausea, vomiting, inability to sleep, heart arrhythmias, and more serious symptoms as well. This is not just some isolated event. These are symptoms that have been associated with exposure to microwave radiation in peer-reviewed studies published in scientific journals. The World Health Organization, the National Institutes of Health, the Journal of the American Medical Association now report that there are identifiable biological symptoms from subthermal exposure to microwave communications. This comes at a time when our telecommunications industry, our utility industry is rapidly proliferating wireless radiation through our environment. And with the installation of the smart grid, of smart meters on everyone's home that pulsate powerful spikes of microwave radiation 22,000 times a day, we say enough is enough. And our county board of supervisors, along with 44 other local governments, have said no. Our County Board of Supervisors on January 11th of this year passed County Ordinance 5084, which criminalizes the installation of smart meters within unincorporated Santa Cruz County. The cities of Capitola and Watsonville have also passed ordinances that prohibit installation of smart meters. Now, the PG&E and the Public Utilities Commission claim that they have sole jurisdiction and they don't need to follow local laws that are passed by our democratically elected local officials. Well, that is absolutely bogus. The California Constitution grants local authorities broad rights. In fact, they have an obligation to enforce the law and to protect the health and safety of the public. And that's what our Board of Supervisors did. They took a look at the evidence, they took a look at the peer-reviewed science, they heard from hundreds of members of our community who have been sickened by microwave radiation from smart meters, and they decided that we do not want the mesh network, this wireless mesh network, in our community. PG&E's decision to use wireless as a communications platform was a cheap and dirty solution to the communications problem. And they are externalizing the costs of not choosing a safer fiber optic connection onto the health and the safety of this community. Now, we are here today to announce the recall of Sheriff Phil Wowak from the position of Santa Cruz County Sheriff. Today we are launching an initiative to gather signatures to seek his recall from office and the election of a sheriff who will stand up for the health and safety of the people of Santa Cruz County, not the corporations. We have tried multiple times to meet with the sheriff. He's been called hundreds of times by the public in Santa Cruz County. We've tried to meet with him and explain that an injury by microwave radiation is just as serious as an injury from a gun or a knife or a fist. People are being injured, people are being driven from their homes, and even though it's invisible, this is a real injury. And he needs to take this seriously. If he won't meet with us and hear the accounts of people who've been injured, then we will seek his recall and we'll find a sheriff who will enforce the law and do his job.
Yeah.
Sheriff Wowak has been sending out his deputies to arrest peaceful protesters and allow the illegal installations by Wellington Energy and PG&E to continue. This is not acceptable. This is equivalent to calling the sheriff and having him respond to your home when a burglar is burgling your house, and instead of arresting the burglar, the sheriff comes and puts you in handcuffs and allows the burglar to continue to ransack your property. This is absolutely unacceptable. The sheriff is on the side of the criminals here, and the criminals are not always individuals. Sometimes they're corporations who are making a profit at the expense of public health and safety. This is a broad movement. We have 45 local governments throughout California opposing this program. I just spoke to Vancouver Radio this morning. People up in British Columbia are up in arms about this. This movement is going to continue to grow until we put a halt to wireless smart meters. So we intend to go serve the sheriff with a notice of recall today at his office. You're all welcome to come along and join us as we do that. But we will be seeking his recall. We'll be gathering signatures from 10% of the voters of Santa Cruz County based on our turnout on Wednesday, where we packed the House at Loudon Nelson, people sitting in the aisles. We don't think we're going to have a problem doing that. You know, in addition to Sheriff Wowak's failure to enforce County Ordinance 5084, there have been other instances of failure from this sheriff. There's really been a pattern of ignoring the health and safety of the citizens of Santa Cruz County, the people of Santa Cruz County. For example, several months ago, a 59-year-old woman was lost in Fall Creek State Park. And instead of organizing a search party, which Sheriff Wowak said would be unsuccessful and a waste of resources, it was left up to the people of Santa Cruz County to go and look for this poor woman who had fallen down into a gully. If it weren't for the people of Santa Cruz County protecting their own, this woman might have died out there. And again, several months ago, a single female deputy was left in charge of a violent criminal outside of Dominican. This convict escaped, and it could have been an absolute tragedy with dozens being killed. But this just shows a lack of judgment on the part of the sheriff and a lack of concern for the health and safety. It is not okay for the people to have to enforce the law on their own. This is what we hire the sheriff to do. We demand that he does his job, and if he doesn't do his job, we're going to seek his recall and replace him with someone who will. That's about all I have to say. If anyone here would like to speak about their injuries from microwave radiation, now's the time to do that. Otherwise, I'm happy to take any questions from the press there may be.
Do you know how many signatures exactly you need, and could you describe how you intend to go about
14,500.
We need 14,500 signatures, approximately 10% of the voting public of Santa Cruz County. And we have a huge grassroots effort underway. That getting 14,000 signatures, this is a very, very controversial issue. People are very angry about PG&E coming and enforcing their will on the community. We don't think we'll have any problem getting that number of signatures. But again, we don't relish the idea of recalling the sheriff. If the sheriff wants to do his job and enforce the law and stop PG&E from installing illegally, that's what we would like to see happen.
Do you have any word on who beyond the county might be ordering the sheriff not only to not enforce it, but to arrest protesters at the site when you call them?
We have no idea. We call the sheriff when we see illegal activity going on, when we see violations of County Ordinance 5084, which is happening every day. There are 50 trucks out there in Santa Cruz County right now. 1,000 smart meters will be installed by the end of today that weren't there yesterday. This is a violation. When the sheriff responds, he arrests the peaceful protesters who are trying to prevent this illegal activity, and instead arrests the protesters. So, we have no idea what goes on behind closed doors. We've seen a dramatic lack of responsibility shown by our elected officials, our assembly members, our state senators, our congressmen, who've been flooded with calls, and yet they defer to an appointed authority, the Public Utilities Commission, when it's their job as elected officials to protect our safety at the end of the day.
And again, we talked about the wireless mesh. There's wireless water meters, there's wireless McDonald's, there's wireless in that building, there's cell phone towers. What sets smart meters apart?
Well, we're talking about microwave radiation, which is already, there's thick electrosmog in our communities already from cell towers, from Wi-Fi, from cell phones. But the imposition of the wireless mesh network represents a significant increase in that radiation at a time when we're learning more about the effects, about the carcinogenic effects of wireless radiation. So, PG&E claims that the meters only radiate for 45 seconds a day, and you'd have to live next to a smart meter for 1,000 years to equal what 1 day of cell phone radiation. That is just a blatant misrepresentation, if not a lie. The truth is, according to the independent scientists who've done the analyses, is that these smart meters subject people in their homes to roughly 100 or more times the radiation from a cell phone. That's cumulative whole body exposure. And they are firing 22,000 times a day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you can't turn them off, and they're exposing all of us. So it's this whole new level of a mesh network. It's all the meters radiating to each other. It's the data collector unit antennas that's going to significantly increase our exposure at a time when we're learning more and more that we should be doing just the opposite. Reducing that exposure, limiting severely the wireless radiation that all of us are exposed to. You know, it's a really sad example, but our society seems to be, in this pattern where we assume that things are safe until they're proven dangerous. And we've seen this with asbestos, we've seen this with X-rays, we've seen this with DDT, with leaded gasoline, and millions of people suffer the consequences of our lack of precaution. And we need to follow the precautionary principle. We need to act on the increasing evidence that people are getting brain tumors on the same side of their heads where they use their cell phone. And this is a tragedy that's affecting people's lives. And this is, the telecommunications industry, the utility industry knows about this, and they refuse to put health and safety first. And the people, the families of Santa Cruz County and the families of California, the families all across the country are paying the price for that. It's not acceptable.
Can I add one thing as well? Is that
Well, it's also, you asked what's the difference between McDonald's or cell phone towers or a tower up on top of this building. But the new thing with these smart meters is this is, for me personally, this is my house. I have property rights. I can choose not to go into McDonald's. I can choose not to go near a cell phone tower. But now we have an outside corporation mandating on my personal property that they are going to put a wireless transmitter on my house, my personal haven, against my will. I don't use any wireless devices in my house. And it's a new line that they're trying to cross of choice and personal property. And that's what's so offensive to so many people.
Josh, isn't this policy not necessarily local and not even Californian? I understand they're going in Mexico as we speak, that it comes from contracts with PG&E with an outfit called ICLEI, which is a front for the World Bank.
Well, a series of corporations have made decisions behind closed doors to initiate this smart grid without any consultation of the public, even though they're using our ratepayer money, our taxpayer money, to embark on this. There's been virtually no consultation, no notification, and they expect us to foot the bill to damage our own health and violate our privacy. And this is outrageous, you know. There are various theories out there about what is being planned behind closed doors, but I would say, you know, there have been cases in the past where corporations plan together behind closed doors to make money at the expense of health and safety. The dismantling of the streetcar network in the 30s and 40s is an example of that, documented. They were found guilty by the Department of Justice for collusion. I don't see this as any different, really. And at the end of the day, this is not just a story about corruption, but this is a story about individuals getting hurt by a technology that is being imposed upon us. And we have some people here today. We have Tammy Donnelly, who is a resident of Aptos. She'd like to say a few words about her experience with the smart meter, and then we'll take more questions after that.
Hello, my name is Tammy. Back in January 15, 2010, I happened to be the first person in Santa Cruz County that got a smart meter when I had to call PG&E for emergency turn-off because our circuit breaker was sparking. I knew about the smart meters. I actually had a petition going out for it back then, but I had no idea I was going to get one since we weren't set for deployment until July. Felt great, came home from a good day at the gym and walked in the house and had the ringing in my ear, earaches, pressure in my head, really bad headaches, heart palpitations, dizzy, nauseous, and within a half hour my whole nervous system was crashing. I had no idea what was going on until my husband came home and found the smart meter when he went to look at the work the electrician did for the new circuit breaker, and I called them and they told me it was going to take a minimum of 3 days to get it off the house. And that was only because we weren't set for deployment, otherwise I would have never got it off. So I left, went out of town, and within a half hour I felt fine. Came home on Monday, July 18th, and all the symptoms came back. I said, this is an emergency, I can't be in my house, get this off immediately. I talked, somebody came from PG&E from San Jose, took it off, and I said, do you realize they could be doing this so much safer like they're doing in Italy and other places over broadband, and they picked the most dangerous, most toxic form of radiation. He said, you're 100% correct. He said, you're right. He said, I don't know why they're doing this, but he said, you're right. And he said, I totally support you. And all the meter readers support us. They want to keep their jobs, of course. So it's a nightmare. I mean, this has been going on for over a year that we have to fight for our health, and it's frustrating. And it's hard to get here today. So we got to stop this madness. Thank you.
Now, John, just with anything in the world, there are health risks to many things that people, just by luck or certain genetics, don't suffer from. Who is at risk most that you found with these smart meters for effects?
We've been hearing a drumbeat of reports from around the state in places where smart meters have been installed, in other states where they've been installed, Florida, Illinois, Arizona. And the people who are most likely to be affected are elderly, the vulnerable, people who have been damaged by chemicals and past electrical injury. And you know, what's happening, what seems to be happening, is that people who live with smart meters are being made electrosensitive. And even though, you know, the utilities and the telecom industry would like to you know, dismiss the existence of electrohypersensitivity, saying, oh, it's all in your head, or people claim to have effects from smart meters, there are identifiable physiological responses from being exposed to microwave radiation that can be measured by scientific instruments from people who are electrosensitive. So this is not being made up. And you know, we've been called a lot of things. Recently we've been called tinfoil hat crazies, we've been called Luddites, we've been called conspiracy theorists. But you know, increasingly, you know, the conspiracy theorists are the ones at the Public Utilities Commission, in the utility industry, who are looking at thousands of Californians writing written complaints of very similar symptoms as a response to the smart meters. Do they think it's some great conspiracy that we're all, like, we don't have anything better to do with our time and just fabricate this whole thing? This is real, and it's injuring people today, and we need to put a halt to it.
Now these have been called spy meters. If 10% of what they say is true, wouldn't that be Hitler's dream come true?
Even, you know, aside from all the health issues, the violation of civil liberties, the smart meters represent a permanent warrantless search into every home and business. This is a violation of the Constitution. All 50 states have laws against wiretapping. This is essentially wiretapping. You can know almost exactly what's going on. You can know about presence or absence in the home, when you wake up in the morning, when you go to bed, what appliances you use. And PG&E and the other utilities are planning to sell this information for a lot of profit to a series of third-party corporations. And this is an absolute violation of our civil liberties, an absolute violation of our rights to privacy and safety in our home. And the privacy violations in and of themselves are enough to grind this program to a halt. So, you know, in response to this huge upswelling of opposition, we had, you know, dozens and dozens of people at the Public Utilities Commission last week saying exactly the same symptoms again and again. The PUC, which is controlled by an appointed leader, President Michael Peavy, former executive of Southern California Edison, says at the end of 50 people coming up to the microphone saying, you know, this is hurting us, says, okay, on to the next agenda item. They are not taking this seriously. They are corrupt, and we need action. In response to all of this public demand for halt to the program, PG&E's proposal is to extort us. They want to install a smart meter on every single home. They want us to trust them to switch off the radio transmitter, and then they want us to pay hundreds of dollars extra for turning off their signal for a meter that we never even asked for, that we're already paying for with increased utility rates. This is how the corporation behaves. They double dip, they triple dip, and at the end of the day, the public is the one that suffers. And this is not acceptable. Absolutely not acceptable.
Aside from